So the new Megadeth album 13 has found its way into my ears and has graced me with its awesomeness. I initially had concerns about this album, the fact that there was a lot of titles in the track listing that looked very familiar to me. I have to say, they did a good job. They did a really good job with this album of going back and redoing these tracks. But instead of giving you just an overview of this album, we're going to go in track by track of the new Megadeth album 13. The album opens up with Sudden Death. Sudden Death was on the Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock soundtrack and was used as the final challenge of the game. I have to say, when I heard it in that game, I didn't like it. I felt that it was very monotonous, boring. It was the same riff over and over again, and then they copy-paste a solo over it. Well, this is not the case on 13, because this version of Sudden Death is either an alternate take, or they went back and re-recorded it. Because this is a different rendition of Sudden Death that I can actually enjoy because they've added bells and whistles, little accents that have made the song more interesting. Now, with that being said, the track on 13 is radically different from Warriors of Rock. And you're probably going to hear those two words a lot in this review. Radically different. Moving on, you have the first single that was released for the album, Public Enemy No. 1. My opinion on Public Enemy No. 1 hasn't really changed too much since the song was released. I feel that the main riff is weak, but the chorus is catchy as hell and will stay embedded in your brain for weeks to come. It's a solid track. Nothing really, nothing outstanding, but nothing bad either. Then you have Whose Life Is It Anyways, which was released for free download either earlier this week or last week. I can't rightly remember. I believe it was earlier this week. And I did a review of that. And this is a very punk rockish style of song. It's punk rock with the solo over it. And the lyrical content is something that sounds like Mustaine would have wrote in the 80s. And like Public Enemy No. 1, it's not a very strong track. Not as strong as some of the content that we'll get to later. I find that the album seems to kind of open up, not really doing much in terms of being memorable or being too strong. It allows you to get easy access into the way this album is going to go. And then it finishes off beating you in the face. Just punch. We the People. We the People is a track that is essentially Mustaine's fuck you to the government. This is a track where you hear such lines such as the Constitution is a lie, and, you know, the government sends you off to war to die for them. It's a really political track, and that's something that I would expect from Mustaine. It's reminiscent of the title track of Endgame. It's a really good track. The lyrical content shines here. And although this is a really good track, I can't see it being too memorable or being played live, even though I want him to play it live. This would be a really good song to put in your live set, either in the middle or to end it. This is where the album starts to get really good. Then we have Guns, Drugs, and Money, which, judging from the lyrics I've heard in the song, is about the Mexican drug cartels dealing money, shooting people up. And that's really all there is to that song. And as a little accent that I don't rightly understand, at the end of the song it kind of fades out with a mariachi band playing in the background. The chorus kind of reminds me of something that you would hear in an Alice Cooper song. Other than that, it those are the two noteworthy things. It has a really catchy chorus, like Public Enemy number 1. This is another one that I can imagine being stuck in your head for a few days. And then we get Never Dead, which was written for the video game of the same name. I really like Never Dead. Never Dead is a really aggressive song reminiscent of Kick the Chair, This Day We Fight, or something that you would have heard in the early years of Megadeth. This is a really thrashy riff, very aggressive, and it makes you want to hit something. New World Order. This is a track that was released on Hidden Treasures. It's been released as a demo for, oh, I can't remember which album he released it as a demo, but it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same as I've heard it on Hidden Treasures. The only difference is upgraded production. There's a different style of how Mustaine does the lyrics. And the solo that you hear, which was originally Marty Friedman's solo, now played by Chris Broderick, it's exactly the same. And I have to, and I've always liked New World Order, so naturally I like this track. It definitely has a Countdown to Extinction feel to it, like the original did. And it's a great track. I've always liked New World Order. And then we get Fastlane, which opens up with a phaser effect, and then kind of blends into almost a police siren kind of style of guitar riffing. And this is how I would describe Megadeth's driving song. And it's great. It's a lot like 1320, which was all about speed and intensity, and just don't listen to it on the highway because you'll probably hit people on the highway. Great track, Fastlane. Really like that one. Black Swan. This is another track that I thought was going to be recycled, as it was a bonus track for United Abominations for people who pre-ordered the album. And again, it is radically different. There's a new lead track added over it, and it makes the song a lot more interesting. Initially, I didn't like Black Swan when it was released with United Abominations, but this version, like Sudden Death, I like a lot better. It seems like with those tracks that were redone, he took everything that was wrong with them and corrected them and made them awesome. Wrecker. If you remember the hardest part of Letting Go, Sealed with a Kiss from Endgame, think of that. Except the exact opposite. Wrecker is... I don't know who pissed Mustaine off, what woman pissed Mustaine off, but there's a lot of hate in that track. I mean, if you have an ex-girlfriend or an ex-wife that's fucking bitching at you all the time, play this song for them. Make them shut the hell up. This is a great fuck you song to your ex-lady friend. So I recommend Wrecker. It's got a pretty catchy chorus, like some of the other songs on this album. And great riff. Great riffage in this track, especially. Millennium of the Blind. I thought that this was going to be very much similar to the original Millennium of the Blind, which was this kind of slow, it's a really slow-paced track. This one, it's faster. The lyrical content has been updated, so that way it fits towards... In terms of lyrical content, it's similar to We the People, except it's not as aggressive. It's not as an aggressive fuck you to the government. And I don't know what it is, but this track is strangely hypnotic. It's beautifully sinister and radically different from the original. Then we get Deadly Nightshade, which opens up with a woman laughing, and judging from what I've heard in the lyrics, it's kind of like a Jack the Ripper kind of song. This is a track that I really didn't find special, but nonetheless, it's a solid track. Really, my experience with this entire album is that there isn't a bad track. Unlike Endgame, which had some slowdowns that I really didn't enjoy, some of the songs on Endgame I didn't like at all, but this album's different. This album is full of material that I can really enjoy. Then we get to the title track and the final track of the album, 13, which is sort of like a biography of Mustaine's life. Think of Victory from Euthanasia, except not as cheesy. And it's a great way to finish the album. I believe there's a line in 13 to which Mustaine says, 13 times I've stood here, and I'm still alive. So, the one thing that I fear about this track is that it kind of reminds me of Iron Maiden's The Final Frontier when they played that song, When the Wild Wind Blows. It sounds like it would be the perfect song to end one's career in music for. Granted, I don't think that Megadeth are finished, but this is a song that sounds like it could end Megadeth's career. Like, if they wanted to go out with dignity and honor, this would be a great track to play. So, final thoughts on this album. This is a definite buy if you haven't pre-ordered this already, which you're insane if you haven't. I'm glad that I purchased the limited edition of this. This is a great album, and I recommend people picking this up. If I had to give a final grade for Megadeth's 13, I would give it a 9 out of 10. This is a really good album. Granted, there are some tracks that aren't going to be too memorable, I think, after a year after this is released, but there is a lot of, if you're a guitar player and you love riffs that are intense, complex, and just sound amazing, this is an album for you. And I'm going to even go as far as to nominate this album as a candidate for Album of the Year. So a 9 out of 10 for me. This is Danny here from Metal Couch, signing off.